I know what people are going to think. So people are going to think this and they're going to go, okay, I'm going to go set this up so I can be the biggest and the best and all that. No. You have to build your podcast to help other people first. So your top of funnel podcast should be all about helping your partners. Your bottom of funnel podcast should be all about helping your listeners. And over time, you'll build a network and you'll build a following where people are actually just coming to you hoping for a relationship, hoping that they can come on your podcast. But you have to build it first.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of the 8-Figure Agency Show, where a successful entrepreneur and a soon-to-be successful entrepreneur help you build an 8-figure agency by documenting our successes and our failures. And today, we have a banger episode for you guys.
Yeah, I'm really excited about today. So number one, we're going to talk about how I landed a $3 million account, and you can do the same thing for your business. Number two, Derek's been building out a lead outbound messaging system, an automated messaging system, which is really cool. He shared it with me last week. And if you watch the show, if you haven't watched that one, go back and watch it. He actually lays it out, and you'll see that I'm taking really close notes because we're actually launching it as well. But now Derek has an update on that, and I'm kind of getting nervous about that. And then also, Derek, we recently had a reel get right around 1 million views. I don't know if you saw that or not, but that's pretty cool. So we'll talk about that too. I just noticed that. So let's dive into this. Which one you want to tackle first?
Yeah, we'll definitely chat about the 3 million account because I'd love to hear about that. But I will say real quick before we dive in, guys, if you haven't followed us on TikTok and Instagram or YouTube just yet, definitely check out the show. Our clips have been blowing up recently. We've been doing about 2 to 5 million views monthly. Instagram, last time I checked, was almost at 7,000 followers. Yeah. Our TikTok's just about to cross 2,000. So people are loving the content up over there. So if you guys want bite-sized versions of the show, go follow us there. Go check us out there. And the show is much better with video as well. Check us out on YouTube. We are a video-first show. But Gary, $3 million account. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's a big account, right? So anytime you hear a number like that, people are like, man, what did you do to get that? And the sales cycle on this was a little bit longer than a normal sales cycle, but I want to explain to everybody how we actually built it. So sometimes I get made fun of. I actually get online, people are like, dude, you got too many podcasts, you got too many things going on, and it's confusing, you know what I mean, and those kind of things. But there's a method behind the madness. And what we do is what I've learned, and it took me a long time to learn this, there's 2 different kinds of podcasts. There's top of funnel and bottom of funnel. Okay, so top of funnel podcasts are to build relationships of people who will refer to you. And so what that means is if, let's say I do dental marketing, right? And Derek runs a consulting business for dentists. Well, I'm going to say, hey, Derek, you should come on my podcast. I would love to interview you, and I'd love to put you in front of all my clients. And you're going to say, hey, what, Derek? Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to let's do this. Sounds like a great opportunity. Doesn't cost you anything. It's free. It's just a little bit of your time. You come on, and through that, we build a relationship. And what I'm doing as I'm hosting this podcast is I'm learning. So I'm actually learning for free everything that's in Derek's brain. And I'm like, why do you do that? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And I'm like, man, that's really cool that you guys do that. That's amazing. People should be eating this stuff up, right? And so what this does is now I've just built a relationship. And if all goes well, we can figure out a way to refer to each other. And everybody wins, right? So that's awesome. So that's top of funnel. Now there's bottom of funnel. What's bottom of funnel? Bottom of funnel is where you have podcasts that are much more tactical and you're only sharing like one idea and it's much closer to the questions that your clients have. So we do ones where we bring on either clients or consultants or things like that, and we just say, what's the number one thing you're doing to grow your new patients? Those are the kind of questions we ask. And they go, we're doing this one thing, and it's very, very tactical. So what happened was I met somebody who's in the same space that we are, brought him on our relationship podcast. Then I brought him to the Bottom of Funnel podcast, and they were like, man, this is really cool. You're asking all the right questions. I have a client that I want to refer to you. They referred the client. We went through our normal sales cycle, and we landed this really, really big account, one of our bigger accounts that we've ever had. I've done the same today, just today. I got a referral for a $9 million account, like a really, really big account. I know. And it's the same thing, the same relationship, build through. And here's the thing. I know what people are going to think. So people are going to think this and they're going to go, okay, I'm going to go set this up so I can be the biggest and the best and all that. No. You have to build your podcast to help other people first. So your top of funnel podcast should be all about helping your partners. Your bottom of funnel podcast should be all about helping your listeners. And over time, you'll build a network and you'll build a following where people are actually just coming to you hoping for a relationship, hoping that they can come on your podcast. But you have to build it first.
First of all, blowing me away right now. That is absolutely amazing. Congratulations on the $3 million deal. And, crush it for the $9 million deal.
Hopefully
but I
we
think,
get it,
yeah, absolutely. Because that would be huge for SMC, right? That would really help you guys get to all the goals that you've had, the last 12 months.
Yep, absolutely.
That's amazing. That's game changing. So I think, I'd love to kind of dive a little bit deeper into that. First of all, for those of you guys who have been listening to the show for a while, I've built my entire business around podcasting. My first company is all around podcast clips. Then I met Gary, and it's been a really awesome journey to see how Gary grows, right? Because from the beginning, it's been a really niche thing. Gary, you talk about dental, right? And dental is already a small industry, let alone the people that run the behind the scenes of dental is even smaller. But now you can officially say that you can attribute a $3 million deal to organic podcast marketing. Yep. Game changing.
So here, let me present it a different way, because I know a lot of people are going to go to their teams and be like, how can we do this? And how can we get the funds? And most of the time you get shot down because it just doesn't make as much sense, because you're not going to get demos right away, right? Here's how you explain it. It's relationships at scale. That's what podcasting is. If you're bringing on guests, it's relationship. It allows you to build community and relationships at scale.
I love it. I absolutely love it. No, that's huge. That's definitely, for those of you guys who have been fans of the show for a while, you guys remember back in about September, October, November 2022, a little bit before that as well, like August, September, October, I actually made a little bit of a pivot, Gary, I'm sure you remember, to offering to build podcasts for people. And that never really took off. I think it was I didn't go hard enough in it. We didn't have a good enough offer. We didn't target enough people, and our pricing was really off. I think we priced too low, and the people we spoke with just couldn't afford it at the time because the offer wasn't a no-brainer offer. But with the new venture that we have going, it's definitely something in the roadmap for our clients of like starting a newsletter, starting a podcast for them as well. But that is absolutely huge. I've always believed big, and this, even though that didn't really work at the time for what my goals were, podcasting is something that I believe is going to grow massively. So for anybody listening, what advice would you tell them? I mean, maybe we can get tactical. What would you say your ROI on podcasting has been? Because obviously, as somebody who's been behind the scenes, I know you've invested a lot in it. Was it worth it?
I mean, long picture, yes, but if you're in it, so I think of podcasting as branding, not as lead generation. So if branding's long term, right? Branding is a long term play, while lead generation is a short term play. So the most important thing when you're talking about marketing, especially for yourself, you have to separate those two things. You can't take branding tools and say, "What's my ROI going to be on these right away?" Well, the answer is the first 6 months is just going to be a complete nothing burger, right? Like besides just getting people on and building relationships. But I can tell you, we've built our company through relationships. All podcasting has done is help us amplify those relationships to a whole nother level.
Yep. No, it's game changing. And as somebody who's been, in your corner watching from behind the scenes, watching you grow and see what you do has been next level. Like you typically, you tend to be 6 to 8 months ahead of trend on most things that you do. And I've only known you for about a year now. And even in that year, I've been noticing that. Like every time you mention something, 3 months later, I'm like, oh, that's what he meant by that. And that's the experience talking that you have, right? It makes me realize it because I'm so much more inexperienced. But it's really interesting. It's why I'm grateful for the show. And I think anybody who's listening is in the right place.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm just like filling the room out and just trying things, striking out just like everybody else. And I think my secret weapon is I'm going to keep growing no matter what. It's just a matter of pivot, adjust, pivot, adjust, pivot, adjust. And eventually things hit. If you do it enough times, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, what I would love to touch on right now before we kind of go into our next topic here is the concept of patience. So a lot of people, as somebody who works behind the scenes with some of the biggest creators in the world, who works with some of the bigger brands and businesses and helps them create content to build their brand on Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, all of that now, the number one thing that leads to people not being successful when they work with us is lack of patience and lack of understanding of what this doing this, investing into their brand actually means. And Gary, I got to go in there with another compliment because since I've known you, you have been one of the only people I've met in the space who are actually willing to not only make the investment, but see no results for months on end, knowing that, hey, it was worth trying because now you're ready to try the next thing. And now you're here, and it led to a $3 million deal. But the number one thing that has stayed true is your belief in branding and content. My point to that is, if you're somebody listening and you're like, hey, I want to start this podcast, I want to do this, you need to be comfortable losing money for the first 12 months. like genuinely losing money, anywhere from like $10 to $150,000+ in a 12-month span, depending on how many people you hire and what you're willing to do yourself and not do yourself. If you're not willing to do that and you're not willing to give away your best information to provide value, highly recommend you don't make this investment. Paid media would probably be a better spend for you. Cold outreach would probably be a better spend for you. And we're actually going to chat about that in just a second. Okay, what are your thoughts around that? How important has patience been in your journey here leading to the $3 million deal? And what other advice would you share with somebody interested in branding?
Well, so I did everything backwards. So I always was like, man, building relationship, that's key. And then I was like, well, no, actually above that is even community. If you can build community, it's even better. And then I learned like, oh, well, I can build content that's evergreen that keeps giving back and makes people feel really special. Like I can put them in, you don't know how many people have reached out because I put up a short that got 2,500 views, which is not a lot, right? Like I have stuff doing 10 million views on shorts. It's not a lot to get 2,000, but the guests never had 2,000. So they're like, man, this is so cool. Thank you so much, right? You're the most amazing marketer. And I'm just like, literally, okay, whatever, right? Like, I'm glad it makes you feel good. Then we started learning about events and building community, using podcasts to lead to the events, using social content to lead to events, building community behind that. I am so big on this, but here's the thing. Lead generation is key for an early business. You have to figure out how to get leads into your business. And I get it, branding is not the strategy for that. But as you're building, you want to be building your brand. So you can do both. There's no rule. The only rule is this. Branding, you can't measure the ROI of. You can't. Like I can sit here and say, yeah, well, I met this lady through this podcast. She gave me a $3 million account. But that's not accurate, right? Like there was a lot of other things that came into play there, right? Like there were so many other things that touched her. Events, cross promotion, we work together on other accounts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But so you can't measure the ROI of branding. You can of the lead generation. So just understand that and always ask yourself, am I investing is this a long-term brand investment or is this a short-term lead generation investment?
Yep, I'm a big believer. I'm banking all of my companies on that personal brands are going to become an even bigger part of the world over the next decade. Content has been around since the dawn of time. Shakespeare had plays, the Romans had plays as well, and street performers, and then you had fireside chats by FDR, Franklin Roosevelt. Like content has never going away, and I think we're living in the best time ever to be alive because content is now easy to produce at scale for low cost. And I truly believe that every business owner who wants to be someone over the next decade will need some sort of presence online. And that doesn't mean they need 1 million followers. Gary, to your point, you don't have 1 million followers, but when you do 2,000 views on a video, somebody with a $3 million buying power is like, oh my God. And next thing you know, it's a $3 million deal. It's $1 million play, right? So, hey, branding is important. I believe in both, but let's talk lead generation for a second. Gary, last 2 episodes, we have chatted about a way that I have figured out, my team has figured out, automating our entire cold email outreach strategy using platforms like Lemlist, Tavis AI, I think it was called, and a couple of other platforms. But 2 things. First off, I'd love to hear from you about what you've been rolling out and what you're kind of looking forward to there. And then I'd love to fill people in on why we actually decided to roll it all back and what I kind of learned going deep into it that led us to deciding to go back to the old school way. Scary, what are your thoughts on it so far?
Okay, so let me just frame the story. So last week, it was actually about 2 weeks ago, but a week away from when you're listening to the last episode, Derek was like, I got this new thing that I'm doing, and it's outbound system. And I was like, he pieced it all together. It was like 5 pieces of software. And I literally told him like 3 times, wait, stop. Tell me that again. How'd you do that? How'd you do that? And I literally jotted it all down, repeated it back to him multiple times. He didn't know this. It was really good content. So I'm sure that podcast will do great. That was part of it. But really the reason was I was like, I'm going to build this too. I'm going to copy Derek on this one. I think it's amazing. So I went to our team and I went to our IT department and I said, hey guys, I want to build this. Here's all the softwares I want to use. I want you guys to research them. Tell me how I can tie this all together. I'll be able to use it if you guys can tie it together. So tomorrow, I'm actually going to meet with them and go over all of it. They pieced it all together, and they're going to show me, Gary, this is how we pieced it all together. Here's how to pull a contact. Here's how to build a list, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to re-explain it. You can go watch the last episode if you haven't watched it. So now Derek tells me before we start the show, he's like, I shut it down. I'm like, dude, are you serious? We've already invested time, money, energy, so much into this.
Yep,
so I'm just like, I'm hoping, you haven't told me yet, but I'm really hoping that you're just like, oh no, this part was hard, or this part wasn't this or that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't the fact that it's difficult. It's you only know what you know, or you don't know what you don't know type of deal. So let me kind of get into it. Number one, we made the decision to roll it back because we there was a little bit of a risk there, and I'll explain what it was. But we're also growing so quickly, we decided investing into this right now is not the best use of our resources. So we held that off and went back to manually sending messages because we have more control over it. But the real reason why, and just look out for this when you get your demo tomorrow. This is something you might want to note down, Gary. Whenever you're sending emails and you have someone else, like a software sending emails from your domain, it's very high risk of Google banning it. And if Google blacklists your domain...
I'm going to stop you right there. So that came up in the conversation that we had. So we bought a separate domain. So we bought smc-national.com.
Yes.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, that's exactly what I was going for.
Okay.
So my concept was I learned that you have to use subdomains. And what ended up happening is I'll be fully transparent. We have so much going on. I was so overwhelmed by okay, I have no idea what this means now. Now I have to buy these subdomains and pay extra money for this. And then I have to redo all of the accounts I set up with different subdomains. It was too much for me to kind of focus on right now, where the ROI of just going back to old school, finding the leads myself, sending them would be faster and lead to better ROI.
This makes me so happy. I'm so thankful that was the... Yes. I thought for sure you were going to be like, oh no, it doesn't actually do, these softwares don't do what we...
No, it works.
Okay. All right.
Gary, it works. Okay. It works. What I'd love to ask you then now, what did you guys learn about the subdomains? And I'd love to learn maybe a next episode after the demo, what you guys figured out.
It's so simple. It's very, very simple. Okay. So when you have a domain, so let's just say your company name is abc.com. So abc.com, whatever, Gary at abc.com, that domain, if you send emails, unsolicited emails, and enough people mark it spam, Google and Yahoo and all these email providers, they will blacklist your URL if there's enough, abuse from that. And so, and that can happen really quickly, especially if you're sending tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of emails. Now, there's a workaround on this. There's multiple workarounds. Number one, you get people bought in first and get them to want your content first. And that's one way to protect it. So one thing that we've done is we just work really hard to get people to subscribe, right? So we have this subscription list and we have a good opening rate and all those kind of things. So you have to massage the list. That's approach number one. Another approach is you just create a different domain. You buy a different name. So now instead of abc.com, you buy abcemail.com. And so now you're like, Gary at abcemail.com. So because I don't know what's going to happen with this. I'm not getting people to schedule a demo with me, Derek. So I'm actually going to add multiple layers. I'm going to email it out with a video that says, hey, Derek, we've never met before or whatever. It's going to address you by name. I have this new thing. We have the report on the 2023 dental marketing, the conditions of dental marketing in 2023 report. Just go here, put in your email, and we'll send it to you. And so I'm actually giving them something, and I don't know. Maybe people mark it spam and it's all bad, so I have this separate domain, or maybe not. And we learn that hey, it's not a big deal. But we did think about that as it came up.
Yeah, so just make sure that Lemlist is connected to Lemwarm so you can kind of warm up the email, warm up the deliverability score. But I'll be really excited to see the data and numbers behind it because over the next 6 months, it's in our roadmap to roll it out again when we hire BDRs and sales team members to kind of handle the whole process for us. And then it becomes as simple as building a list, plugging it into Lemlist, automatically using the templates you already have pre-built with the pre-built sequences, and you're good to go.
Awesome. Yep, I'll keep everybody updated. I'm really excited. I think this is going to work really, really well.
Especially for you guys as well. Guys, this has been a banger of an episode, a $3 million deal for Gary. Give him a congratulations in the comments below. Podcasting works, branding works. It's really important over the next decade. I'm banking my companies on it. And cold email outreach, it works. I'm glad that I didn't throw Gary for too much of a loop there with rolling it back. But guys, thanks so much for watching and listening to this episode of the 8-Figure Agency Show. If you've liked what you've heard, leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us if you're watching on YouTube. Check us out if you like shorter, bite-sized content. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Join the thousands of people, in some cases millions of people, watching the content, checking out the show. Join the fun there. And thanks you guys so much for watching and listening. And until next time.
Peace.